it, then
That's pretty bad.
Fizz likes to wait about an hour into raid time before he's like, so what boss are we doing? Oh, okay. What's he doing?
Sounds about right.
All right, guys. So the goal for this meeting is for it to last about 60 minutes, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end for those of you who are maybe a little bit behind on your Legion knowledge and have some questions that you want answered. Goal is to end around 6:40, which is an hour from now. But I'm your host tonight, so there's not a chance that that's going to happen. So the first thing that I want to do is introduce the officers that are going to be helping you guys out this week. I'll go into that a little bit in more detail under the leadership team section, but we do have we have two returning officers from Warlords of Draenor, Iridan and Ravindra, and we are welcoming today a new officer, Dyer, who's going to be helping me out with a lot of raid leading this expansion. So a big welcome to him. Give him congratulations in game when you see him. Throw a whisper or something. But he's going to be helping us out and taking on the 4th officer spot. Goals for tonight are to go over what we're doing in the rest of Warlords of Draenor, talk a little bit about our plans for Legion and our goals for Legion. We're going to briefly talk about our roster and current needs right now. We have a lot of people signed up to raid, which is awesome right now. I mean, I think we're going to end up around 25 plus in attendance. So we're going to have a lot of flexibility, especially going into the expansion. What?
You lagged briefly.
You lagged for a moment.
You're good. You're good now.
Okay, cool. I probably just took my finger off the push to talk button. So we're going to go over the goals for the expansion, goals for raiding, recruitment needs, and then talk a little bit about the getting back into shape for raiding and what progress raiding is looking like. It'll be a reminder for those of you who are already on the team and have been on the team for a while, but there's also going to be a lot of people, and there are a lot of people on this channel right now who might not necessarily know how we do things in HoZ Guild, and we'll kind of go over some of those expectations and talk about a lot of the changes that we're doing. We try to streamline a lot of processes to make it less tedious on you guys, and I hope you'll see that in this outline. After about 45 minutes, we'll talk about what you guys can do right now and give you some actionables to walk away from the meeting.
Homework? Boo.
Bar the buttons pressed.
I don't even do my real work.
I think he's lagging.
Yeah.
We're gonna get about 30 seconds of amazing. What do you mean I'm lagging?
About 30 seconds from now.
Well, congrats, Dyer. In the meantime, while we're waiting, Dyer rather got us through most of the challenge modes. So yay!
We suckered him into it.
Lots of convincing. They're like, here, step into this van.
Candy.
Welcome back.
No one kicked you. You're in here twice, except the cooler one's the one that's supposed to be talking.
Oh, I walked in and Rab's like, someone talked him into it. I was like, oh wow. I figured Dyer like just booted me from the channel. He's like, haha, I feel the power.
Global mute. That's all I'm saying.
We let Dyer join one of the officer chats for a night, and then we decided that once he was about 20 minutes into the officer chat that he's in the rabbit hole. There's no way he could back out at that point.
Nice.
Well, with that introduction, hopefully didn't get too cut off. I'll turn it over to Iridan, and he's going to talk to us about wrapping up the rest of Warlords of Draenor on our plan for the next couple weeks.
Okay, so before I go too deep in, I put a link to the profession/class roster in GroupMe rather than make it my comment. So go there, just click the link. It should be open through well, basically I have a follow-up down way towards the end, so fill it out as we're talking. To go into...
we haven't done it.
Well, yes, if you've already done it, you're golden. But if you haven't, well, you don't have an excuse. You're listening to us. So, like a contained audience. So wrapping up Warlords of Draenor, we are going back into raiding tomorrow, for those that weren't aware. Basically be 700 or above if you're bringing something that you haven't raided on before. I think we're going to go more into depth on that here in just a little bit. Yeah. So I'm going to go start diving into the Hellfire Citadel feedback, and I made a very, very short TLDR of... I did go through and read every single response to that Hellfire Citadel survey that we did back in January. We put it out, and I've gone through and read all of it, and it came down to just a couple things. First of all, people tended to be very satisfied with the progression of Hellfire Citadel. I mean, we got Archimon down right before the new year, I believe. It was either right before or right after. There was a little bit of interest. Yeah, just a little bit before, I think. Yeah, actually, it was right before Christmas. There was a little bit.
We were going to take a vacation.
Exactly. Yeah, we did it and just said, okay, we're good for 2 weeks, I believe, something along those lines. People were happy with the time they're putting into the guild. They feel like they're getting rewarded for the time they put in. A little bit of interest in going mythics, but most people, or the ones that did have interest in mythics, also understood why we didn't go that route because of the time that was required, and also kind of changing the whole the raid makeup, you could say, the attitude that we do. You know, we try to keep it lighthearted. Going into mythics, it wouldn't have been really very easy going, most likely. One of the big takeaways as far as the leadership was the possible addition of another officer, which coincidentally, congrats Direpaw. So, there you go. We have a fourth officer. We do listen. I did catch a couple notes of people wanting kind of a role captain of sorts, basically, you know, someone to kind of oversee melee, someone to oversee tanking, ranged, the healers. If anyone is wanting kind of feedback on that, get with Baratar, get with myself. We will be going over the logs and looking into everything, in essence. So, I mean, other than tanking, that if you're Zen, you can talk to Direpaw. Those are basically our two tanks, obviously. But yeah, you know, if Baratar and I don't know something as far as, say, melee, we will go and find out, or we will, you know, ask for assistance on that if the time comes. As far as the community end of it went, let me just put the link in GroupMe because it seemed very fitting.
While he's doing that, for those of you who don't know already, at the end of every raid tier, what we always do is we put out a survey, and the survey kind of it's kind of a reflection based on the previous raid tier, and you know, a way for us as officers to get feedback directly from the community on what needs to change. To add to what Iridan said about the need for a fourth officer, one of the big things that we noticed that a lot of people mentioned was that there was not... We could have done a better job diluting a lot of the work off of my plate, in particular, from the last expansion. A lot of people said that, you know, everyone kind of just directly goes to me as the raid leader for last expansion. And a lot of times the officers in particular are standing there twiddling their thumbs going, you know, well, no one ever comes to me about anything. So one of the goals for this expansion, in terms of that feedback that you guys got, we're going to be diluting a lot of those responsibilities to both officers and you know, veteran members of the team who, you know, can take on a little bit more responsibility. So we'll be talking about that over the course of the expansion, but that is one of the big feedback items that we heard, is that it's difficult to get the attention of the raid leader sometimes because there's so many inputs going on. So we're going to do our best to try to delegate a lot of the little responsibilities to other players so that we can free up the raid leaders for much more time to interact directly with you and answer questions. Anything else you wanted to add on that, Iridan?
That's all I got for the Hellfire Citadel feedback, so on to you.
Okay. So one player that I wanted to recognize, we had a lot of rock stars for the last expansion, and we mentioned this back in December, January, but I wanted to reiterate it going into the next raid tier. We awarded the MVP of the last expansion to Ursa. This guy had a 100% raid attendance for all of Warlords of Draenor, and was by far the most improved player I've ever seen over the course of an expansion. I mean, when you came in to the expansion, you'd never done that serious of raiding. You'd done a little bit of like flexible raiding before, and by the end of the expansion, he was making shot calls on Heroic Archimond. So we're going to be working out between the two of us. He's going to be meeting me at BlizzCon this year, and he's going to get a HoZ Guild t-shirt with a MVP logo on it to sport at BlizzCon, and we just wanted to throw that out there and give him some recognition for that. He did a rock star performance last expansion and deserves it.
Yay, Ursa!
Yay!
Grits.
All right, so moving on to our third topic here, preparing for Legion. I'm going to turn it over to Rav to kind of go over our the events and things that we have coming up here in the next couple days.
All right, good evening. So if you're not aware, we're going back into raiding tomorrow. We haven't done any serious raiding in several months now. At most, we were kind of running through, doing achievements, knocking things out, but not too many folks dying unless it was a mechanic that wiped everybody instantly. So starting tomorrow night, normal raid times, 5:15 raid invites go out, 5:15 server, 5:30 we start raiding. For the next 4 weeks, we're going to be doing this minus one exception we'll talk about. Current process for right now until Legion begins and we start raiding in Legion, the current process is I'll make an event. The events are all out there right now on the calendar. So like if you're not signed up for tomorrow night's raid, if you're not, you might want to do it now. There's 10 of us out there currently on that in the calendar, so if you plan on being there, you might find that.
11, actually.
All right. I'm logging on. Jesus.
I'm streaming. I'll do it later.
The rest of them are there. What we got going on, normally how this process is going to work is once we actually start raiding, promotions will go out. We'll have trial raiders, we'll have raiders, etc. Right? So once that happens, when I make the calendar invites, everyone trial raider and above is automatically going to be added to the calendar. We can't do that right now because everyone is currently zugging, and since we have more than 100 members, it won't let me just add everyone to it. How we do rating around here, how we do the attendance is pretty simple. We take a positive attendance approach, and what that means is I'm going to create the calendar invite. Everybody's going to be added to it from trial raider and above. Your name's going to be on that list unless we get some kind of notification that you're not going to be able to make it. We're going to assume you're there. So when 8:30 comes and we're not finding you, or 8:15 and you're not around for stuff, we're going to start wondering where they're at. We'll be checking our normal locations. We've got a couple places to handle that. There's going to be an email address, and we just added it tonight to the website too as well. So under the progression rating, under the events and progression rating, we added a link tonight. You can actually put it on right there. And we've also got an email address at attendance@houseofzug.com.
Just to add to that really quick, though.
And we'll take some other things, too. So.
Hellfire Citadel is not going to be mandatory attendance. So anyone over an item level 700, we've killed this back in December. So the goal of the Hellfire Citadel that he's talking about right now It is not going to be an attendance mandatory event. We'd really encourage you to go because it's good to build team camaraderie. People have been asking to start raiding again just to get back in as a group.
Sign up.
Yeah. So it's but what he is talking about though, when we go into raiding in Legion, starting in Emerald Nightmare, that's when we will be reactivating our positive attendance assumption, which, as he already mentioned, means that we assume that anyone who is raid rank trial and above is going to be there unless you say otherwise. So we just assume. In the past, we've done signups. Signups suck. No one likes signing up for anything. It's not fun. So what we do is we say, if you're on the raid team, you just let us know. So anyway, yeah, and there's going to be a lot of ways. And Dyer's going to go over that when we get into the expectations for Raider section for Legion. So just so you guys know, if you're missing tomorrow night's raid, it's not the end of the world. There's no effort points being awarded until Legion starts, and Rab's going to be going over the EPGP system in a minute. But if you can make it, fantastic, because it's good to just kind of do some team building and get into the new classes. Anyone with 700 item level or higher, does not matter what your rank in the guild is, will be able to attend these Hellfire events. Sorry, Rav, go ahead.
No problem. That's right. This next month is not mandatory sign up. The purpose of the next month is to shake off the cobwebs. We haven't done this as a group in quite a while, so we're going back in. We've got all new classes. A lot has changed, so we just want to get back in there, get working as a group again, and get ready when the time comes. I mentioned we're doing this for the next 4 weeks. An opportunity to get in, do it, hang out with a group, listen to some really bad puns, and have a good time. The one exception to that rule is going to be next Tuesday, the 9th. We are not going to raid that night. Apparently, demon hunters are coming out, and people feel like that's going to be more important than raiding, whatevs, but, let's see. So nightly pugs are kind of what we're thinking. With the community coming back online, we recommend hop and vent. Don't be scared. Get in there, join the community. We got PvP events going on, world boss kills, dungeons. Probably be plenty of opportunities to run mythic dungeons between now and Legion coming along. Opportunities to get more characters geared up and essentially get rolling, get ready for the 30th when it drops and everybody starts heading off to leveling and moving forward. Lots of things in place, officers available. There's going to be all sorts of information put out in the next few minutes to help just gain general knowledge, what to do, where to go, what to expect as Legion comes. Got another week until the invasions start happening, a wonderful catch-up event for gear for your other tunes. It may not be your mains and everything else to start getting level 700 plus gear for those. Lots of opportunities. Get ready, start raiding again, and start kicking some ass.
And network with other players, especially if you're new to the guild. If you're a veteran of the guild, introduce yourself to people online that you don't know already, and vice versa. The more team camaraderie we can build in the next couple weeks before things get too serious into raiding, the better. So people are online every single night, PvPing, having fun, playing games. It's just a great opportunity when you go to log on to World of Warcraft, pop open Ventrilo, and start hanging out with people and getting introduced to members of the team. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Irodin. He's going to talk a little bit about our current recruitment process, how we're doing on recruitment. I'd say based on the channel right now, I think we're doing okay. And what we're currently looking for in terms of class composition.
So first up, I'd like to welcome, I'm not going to try to go and remember who's new, who's not. I know we have a lot of returning people, or people who may not have actually rated Hellfire. They may have done, Blackrock Foundry, they may have done IMO, and then they took a little break or something like that, and they're coming back. So welcome back. I see a bunch of the new names because I remember interviewing people. So welcome to the new people as well. Just looking real quick at the signups in the completed, actually we have 32 people that have actually filled out the profession list. 33 now.
Yeah, I did it while you were talking.
Perfect.
I've done it twice, depending on what spec I choose to play.
Not so perfect. But we'll go with it.
That's okay. We'll take the most recent entry. That's not a problem. I can sort by name and delete your old entries.
We're also not going to hold anyone. We're not going to. What's the best way to put it? We're not going to do the concrete shoe treatment. We're not going to make you go swim with the fishes if you put down that you're going to be a shaman and you're like, you know what, I enjoy paladin more or something like that. This is just so we have a general idea of what we need to look for. By all means, the one thing I see, warlocks. We have a one, and that's a maybe. So if people know warlocks or are warlocks and enjoy playing it, what we really want is people to play what they enjoy. We don't want someone to get burned out and just not want to log in, not want to raid. That doesn't do either. It doesn't do y'all any good. It doesn't do us any good. Because then we have to go and try to find another one. We're pretty set. I mean, our tanks are set, obviously. But as far as melee, we're sitting pretty good on melee. We're actually doing decently well on ranged, but I think ranged is going to be one of those always looking for ranged. We're pretty good on heals, but again, we're not going to say no. We want to bring people, not the class, because also not everyone that maybe did this, responded to the profession survey will actually be raiding. I know there's a couple people who may have, done it because they saw it on the website and felt like they needed to. That's partially, I'll just throw that on me. That is my fault that I didn't leave a casual option as far as kind of how, what could you leave for what kind of percentage you could make for the raid. If you weren't interested, there's not really an option.
So one quick thing that I do want to kind of put out there though is that we do need some backup tanks. So while Zen and I are great, we don't intend on going anywhere. From what speaking for myself, I don't intend on going anywhere. Things happen, life events happen, so it'd be good to have a couple people who are willing to be a backup tank, maybe a third or fourth string tank. That way we can seamlessly put somebody in if someone is missing for the night.
And we lost like 6 tanks in the Warlords, so, I mean...
That's correct.
We lose people.
Absolutely.
It just makes my choice harder. Because I like tanking, but I like being the backup tank for when people need it. But at the same time, I like bringing stuff to the raid, which means the Warlock would fit best.
You're a good tank, Fatso. I would definitely say that we'd welcome you as a third tank.
Yeah, and I would say just... that role would probably be more beneficial than even a warlock. I know that warlocks are useful, but without a tank, you can't progress. You can still progress without a warlock.
And there may be parts of the raid where it requires 3 tanks too. We haven't personally dived in or dove in. At least I haven't. I don't know if Dyer, have you yet? Like on beta?
No, not really.
Yeah, so I mean,
I haven't seen anything for tank spot yet.
I just did Suramar stuff and a lot of solo content for the most part, and then 5-mans, and that was about it. So no raids, but so far it doesn't seem like anything's taking 3 tanks from what I've read.
Yay!
So Airden, here's a softball question for you. When I'm deciding on a class for Legion, what kind of things are important in that decision?
Enjoy all of it. I say this as someone that would prefer not to go melee, but if I need to, I will go survival hunter. But basically, make sure you enjoy all the parts of the class. If you're affliction, if you just enjoy, say, the affliction warlock or just fire mage, and then it gets hit with the nerf bat, and it becomes not as enjoyable, or they change the mechanics therein of the entire class or that spec, that can and all of a sudden you're just not enjoying it, but you really don't like Frost, or you really don't like Arcane, you're really just not going to want to raid. So, and then you're looking at trying to play catch up on an alt when you could have been doing it the whole time, an alt that you really like playing this more specs or all the specs of. So we would rather have something that you enjoy playing than filling the roster spot. Yes, we are looking for warlocks. We're not going to go and try to force someone into the role.
There's a great video that Preach came out with. Preach Gaming, for those of you guys who aren't familiar, is I believe he has the most subscriptions of any YouTuber for World of Warcraft, but I might be mistaken. I think that's self-proclaimed. But he's a big-time community member in the game and puts out some really quality videos. I've got a collection of videos from him and other YouTube players that might be relevant to you that are on both the progression rating tab and also under the community tab on HoZug.com. There's a new section for Legion info, which we're going to be adding a lot of information there. So if you ever find yourself going, I don't know what I should be spending my time on, you can go there and look. One of those videos is his How to Choose a Class for Legion. I think it's fantastic. I think he brings a really good perspective for people who are rating. Yeah, it's under HouzesUg.com. Under the community section, there's a drop down, and it should say Legion info on that. And there's a bunch of videos in that section that are great. He also does he does individual class comparisons or spec comparisons, but he also does full role comparisons as well. For example, he just dropped his range DPS comparison, so he goes through every single range DPS and ranks them A to Z, what he thinks are the best. One of the things that I love about the way that he does his videos is he always focuses on the gameplay and the utility that they bring rather than the numbers. Because, like, for example, Frost is kind of underpowered right now. Fire's really good. But I promise you, if you're going in, like Iridan was saying, if you go in and you say, I want to play a Fire Mage because it's OP, I promise you that at some point during the expansion, Blizzard will nerf Fire and buff Frost, and you're going to get forced to play something that you don't like. So when you go to look at your class, if you don't like tanking, don't play a Fury Warrior. Play a Rogue if that's what you love doing, right? So I highly, highly recommend it. That's something we really emphasize in HoZug Zug, is that you play a class on your main. Alts, you can play a spec, but when you play your main, you're playing your entire class. And if you're only coming prepared with 1/3 of your class's capabilities to every single raid, your 1/3 is valuable to this team as the guy next to you. So that's something we want to really emphasize. In Legion, it's probably going to even be less of a big deal because of the artifact weapons. But it's still something that's very important. And when we have 25 players on a team plus, that versatility is going to be a big advantage to our progression by being able to adjust people and say, okay, hey, let's move over one healer here, or take a Shadow Priest into Disc, etc., etc. So make sure that you love all three of your specs, because you may be asked to play them at some point during the expansion.
Okay, so I can be a hunter healer again, running around with bandages without being demoted? Awesome.
Absolutely.
I love it.
We might draw the line somewhere.
Yeah.
Yep, I already got it approved.
All right, so let's talk about actually in Legion. So progression rating in Legion is going to be very similar to how it was in Hellfire. Overwhelmingly, you guys seem to like the system we had in Hellfire. The feedback seemed to suggest that we managed our time pretty well, made good progression, and everyone on the raid team was overwhelmingly happy with the way that they spent their time during the expansion. So that's awesome. That was great feedback. There are going to be some big changes going forward. One of them, as I mentioned, is going to be I'm going to be delegating a lot of responsibilities onto officers and onto veterans on the team. The leadership team is going to, although it's similar in terms of players, we are going to be changing up our roles considerably. I'm going to be taking a back seat on raid leading. I will be handling most likely the range DPS and or healers, and be a little bit more focused on why are we dying. For those of you, which might actually only be Crusade, that can remember far enough back to when I was a healer, that's the role that I'm looking to take on, is one that analyzes more on the why did we take damage, why did we die, and what abilities are killing us, rather than what ad is coming out that needs to be killed next, the raid pacing, all of those things are actually going to be falling on Dyer's shoulders. So he's going to be controlling, the breaks, the raid flow, making sure that we're, pulling things on time, making swift progression through the dungeon. And I will probably be following someone and looking at combat logs and interpreting them while we're going through trash pulls. So a little different dynamic from me. I think that a format where you have a offensive shot caller in the tank role complemented by a defensive shot caller on the healing and or damage role is a really good dynamic. I've had that in the past with other raid leaders, and it's very, very effective strategy. So you get two good perspectives on the raid from different places, and I think that was something that we were really missing last expansion. Was we had most of our officers concentrated in a melee or right under the boss role, and I think our ranged DPS and healers did a very good job, but for the most part were left fairly leaderless, and they kind of had to learn on their own and figure it out on their own, which actually expanded their playstyle quite a bit. But I think we can do better this expansion. Ravindra is going to be taking over and continuing his role and expanding his role as kind of the team manager. He is going to be handling all of the effort points, gear points, and our loot system, in addition to setting up groups, doing attendance, and will be the technical raid leader for the purposes of inviting and setting privileges on all of those kinds of things. So all those things will not be on the actual shot callers or the raid leaders over event. They're going to be a separate responsibility, so that we can focus completely on you guys and progressing through the dungeon and not have to worry about those administrative responsibilities. Iridan is going to be helping me considerably with the combat logs analysis. And like I've already mentioned, Dyer is going to be taking on a much larger role in terms of raid leading, which means Zen, have fun. Guess what? You're moving up into larger responsibilities as well, because when he's not there, you're going to be handling a lot of those things. So I know you guys will be working close, but I'm looking forward to hearing your voice more and more on Vent, since you signed up to be a tank this expansion.
Nice, looking forward to it.
Surprise!
He's always so quiet, though.
He's very zen. Is that what you're
It's
saying?
not a bad thing. Oh no.
We've started.
So it begins.
Never heard that
So
one
it has
before.
come to this.
And so it begins.
Anyway.
Did it start?
Can we just add
Yeah,
on,
it never
an
ended.
extra bit of EP DK for every pun made?
No, heresy.
Dollar in the jar.
Puns are their own reward.
You should get EP for good puns.
Mm-hmm. We have a good one
So
coming up.
Punishing.
The best pun of the night gets 50 EP.
This is punishing.
Okay.
Oh God.
We've used that one
all
a
right.
number of times.
We have that one's definitely
Oh,
old.
did we? I missed it. I'm sorry.
Oh, not tonight. Just over the last, the last raids here. That was used
Would it
a
be
lot.
punctual?
That's an improvement.
All right. So with that said, I'm going to turn over to Dyer to talk about some of the expectations for raiding in Legion. For you guys who are veteran raiders, it's probably going to be a lot of repeated information, but for those of you who are new to the team, it's important that we kind of reiterate all these things since we haven't been raiding since like December.
Yeah, it has been a while. So, it's kind of expectations. We have them all posted up on HoZug.com. And so don't feel like you have to memorize everything that I'm saying, but if you feel the need to take notes, I guess feel free. We kind of look at things just a little bit, I think, differently and good. I feel like if we execute against these things, that we will do better and that we will get through the content that we want to. And so preparation is key. And I'll kind of go into that a little bit. So as we're moving up through the content, it is mandatory really to have your maintain that appropriate item level for the content. You don't want to be caught with your pants down playing catch up. It puts a lot of burden on the raid team. And specifically, I would actually look at DPS being a huge proponent of that. You should be at the top of your game especially as DPS. The faster that we can down the boss, the easier it is on the healers and the tanks. Fully optimizing your gear is also important. You want to research relevant boss mechanics, examine the logs. We do run logs. It's something that I have actually found to be very useful in my time here in House of Zug. It's not something that I used before, but it helped me really understand where I was doing well and where I wasn't doing well, what I could improve on with my rotation. Maybe there was some damage that I was standing in that I shouldn't have. One thing that kind of came up in our challenge modes was I actually got an upgrade, and I decided to hold off on the upgrade because I knew that it could potentially put my computer out of commission during our challenge mode progression. And so I still haven't even put that in because another thing that you want to do is maintain a working RAID computer. Ensure that your add-ons are up to date, and then make sure that you also understand the EPGP loot system. That way there's no real questions. You're not really slowing down the RAID to figure that portion out. And you also are spending the points effectively on the upgrades that you're looking for. So as we get into the second point, there's skill. We've kind of said it a number of times tonight. Mastering your entire class is a good thing. And that goes beyond what we kind of say here, where you're mastering your core gameplay mechanics, like such as the proper key binding, global cooldown maximization, and aura tracking. But having a good understanding of what your class brings to the table all the way around. If you understand how healing works, or you understand how tanking works, you're probably going to be a better DPS. And it goes for all the roles. As a DPS class that I used to play that a lot in vanilla, it helped me understand tanking a lot more. I understood what threat actually really meant because I was always stealing aggro off the tanks back in Molten. Other things to look at is when you're looking at that skill cap, is to see. I think the difference between a good raider and a bad raider is one that can understand when to use certain abilities during the encounter. You could blow a cooldown right now, but sometimes being able to use that cooldown when a bloodlust is going to be up, or when you know that your armor is going to be or not your armor, your potion is going to be up, and being able to put all that together for a much larger hit for a critical point in the fight can sometimes, in many ways, actually outweigh just using that quick cooldown right there in the moment. Being able to read that and understand that will make you much better as a DPS, a tank, or a heal on those encounters, and really stand you apart from the rest. And then I think the attitude is also an important key. Being coachable, being respectful, and understanding that being positive about how we're going into things is going to foster a better community where you want to raid. It's very easy to get into a blame game or into anger, and I think that is something that we try to stay away from in House of Zug. We want to make sure that people feel like they want to come and contribute, but as well as with that, taking that criticism to become a better player. Other things to really keep in mind is keep the channels clear of unnecessary communication if we're in the middle of a progression fight. On farm nights it tends to be a little bit more relaxed, but and then the final thing that I'll really touch up on here for the attitude bit is to just be patient. Progression does not always happen immediately. Preach actually has a video that I recommend. I think we have it on the site, don't we, Bear?
Are you talking about the how to be a progression raider?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have that video. That's one of my favorite videos that he ever did. And that one is actually on the progression rating page, like directly there. I think it pretty much sums up the attitude that we're trying to accomplish here in House of Zug. The big thing he stresses in that is consistency. He says that your job as a raider is not necessarily to top the damage meters. It's just to find a strategy that is going to work through the mechanics that is repeatable every single time. A lot of players have a tendency to, they get hit by a mechanic and then they don't implement a solution to that. But especially if it's a random targeted mechanic, you don't really figure out why you died. You just hope that it doesn't happen again. And a lot of times there's just a series of 3 or 4 things that lined up, and that's the reason why you died in that particular situation. And a lot of players have a tendency to say, oh, well, that was just a bad series of events, or I got bad RNG. Well, that over the course of an entire expansion or raid tier, you will get that RNG consistently. And when every player adopts that mentality of, well, it's just bad RNG, I'll luck out next time, then you never kill bosses. The key as a raider is really to develop that consistency and make sure that you have a strategy to get through every single mechanic and make sure that you're doing the best you can. Another topic he covers in that is the first pulls are the most important on a new boss, because you're going to wipe and you're not going to do well. So just throw everything you can. Figure out if Blessing of Protection works. Figure out if you can taunt the boss. Figure out if you can use a certain ability in a certain way, stun an ad, interrupt a mechanic. Anything that your class is possibly capable of doing, experiment as quickly as possible and figure out what you're capable of doing so that you know what options you can use to implement a solution to any problem going forward. It's a great video. It's right on the website under progression rating. I highly recommend you watch it. It's great.
Absolutely. I've watched it a couple of times. Actually, re-familiarized myself with it last night. It's a good way to really understand how it works. One of the things that really stands out in the first few minutes as well is that he talks about if you're downing a boss, the first pull that you try it on, it's likely that the encounter was undertuned or there was something completely wrong with it, and that doesn't really make for fun. Progression is about making mistakes and learning from those mistakes as you move forward. So that's a lot of I know that's a lot of information, but again, we do have a lot all of this on the website, and you can go through and read it. The last thing that I'll touch on before moving on is attendance. We want to strive to have 85% attendance on the progression raid nights. That's fewer than 2 missed raids per month. If you figure how many raids that we have in a month, that's
9 to 10.
Usually between 9 to 10. And it's really important that we're there, that we're all committed to it. But at the same time, understand that life does happen and that there may be reasons for you to not be there. Just make sure that you're alerting an officer in advance. 24 hours of advance notice is great. I've actually made a GroupMe channel where you can post that, where you're going to miss it. It's actually linked into the notes today. And then we have a couple of other options for you as well. You can actually go onto the HoZ site under the progression, and there is currently an option to over on the right-hand side that says, post here if you need to miss a raid, put in your character name, the email, and then the comment. Just know that if you are going to post in GroupMe, that it is public. So if it's something extremely personal, you may not want to post it for everybody to see. And then a no-show without contact with one of our raid leaders can result in removal from the raid team. So just be courteous, be polite, understand that we may be counting on you to be there, and every person does make a difference on this raid team. So yeah, that's what I have for the my bit.
Did you mention
there,
email?
So.
I didn't hear it.
Oh no! I did not mention the email bit. You can email. You can also email for the any type of attendance misses that you have.
Yeah, last expansion we had people posting on the forums on our website. Forums suck. No one uses them anymore. So we're getting rid of them for this expansion, and we're switching up our technology quite a bit. As you may have seen, we're doing Facebook Messenger right now, so applicants are able to directly communicate with an officer anytime. We have, thanks to Iridan, we have a 5-minute response time right now, which is like the highest rating that Facebook can give us. So new applicants to the guild are getting responses very quickly and are able to network with an officer right away. You as a player, in terms of communication, are able to get a hold of us through GroupMe. If anyone does not have GroupMe right now, that's our mobile chat room. Make sure that you get with an officer, and we'll get you a link to that so you can download it for your phone or use the desktop client to get a hold of us there. Like Dyer said, there is a link in that expectations page where you're going to be able to, you can, if you'd like, join the GroupMe channel. But we try to make it as easy on you guys as possible. So you can email us at attendance@houseofzug.com and just let us know that you're going to need to miss a raid coming up, or you're going to be late to a raid, anything along those lines. That will get sent to us as officers. You can also get a hold of us on our website on housezug.com. Under the events tab, there's progression rating. We've added a place where you can directly through either the website, it's mobile friendly. There's a little form you can fill out with just your character name, email address, and a quick note you can blast to us, and that will alert an officer immediately as well that, hey, I can't make it tonight, or something's coming on. So we try to give you as many options as possible to do that. What I don't want you to do is post on Facebook, whisper an officer, tell someone else to tell an officer, or post in the lobby of the GroupMe channel. All of those things will ensure that the officer will either forget or never see it. So just make sure that that you're going through one of those means. If you send us an email or post it on the website, you'll get a confirmation letting us know that we received it. If you post it in the GroupMe channel that's specific for attendance, then obviously you'll see that it was posted to the channel already. So those are the ways to get a hold of us. Like Rav said earlier, we do positive assumption attendance for raiders. So once the raiding begins in Legion, anyone who has the rank of trial raider, raider, or veteran raider, or officer, any of those 4 ranks that are raid ranks, you will, if you've been promoted to that rank, that means that you applied for that rank and completed the requirements leading up to that the raid tier. So you brought that rank on yourself. You did something to get there yourself. So when you get that rank, that means that we assume you will be at every single raid unless you tell us otherwise. And an 85% expectation is pretty minimal, considering that it's like 2 nights off a month on a 2-night 7-hour raid schedule. We have a very light raid schedule to begin with. A couple of you, Cadre is the first one that comes to mind, have already talked to me about different schedules, rotating shifts, things like that. That's awesome. We're going to be scatterbrained as all hell going into this expansion. So, bring it up a couple times to us. Let us know what we can do to help with the schedule. If you don't think that you're going to be able to make the 85%, I highly recommend that you play a DPS class, preferably a ranged DPS. But DPS is definitely the better way to go. It's easier to incorporate you onto the team than playing a tank or a healer. If you're not going to be making that minimum progression. Anything else you wanted to add about the expectations for rating?
I think that one other thing is that if you find yourself struggling, feel free to reach out. I have done a lot of melee DPS. I've done a lot of tanking. Baratar's done healing. Both Rav and Iridan are extremely knowledgeable with both Hunter as well as other classes. And rely on some of your peers, maybe some of the people who seem to have a good mastery of the class. There's a lot of resources out there. And feel free to just reach out when you're, maybe not doing or performing as well as you'd like. We're here. We're here to help and make sure that you're as successful as you want to be.
If I can add on to that, check logs. Once the logs are running, if you're running, say if you're running fire, someone else is running fire, but they're doing 10, 15k higher DPS, check why. If they're doing things that you're not, that might be why. If they're doing, they may be doing slight changes to their rotation, just send them a whisper and say, hey, why, possibly why are you going this way? And most times people are willing to go. I tried it out, I looked on icy veins, I did this, I did that, and it'll work, So by all means ask, other people that are, if someone's just higher than where you are, check why.
To build on that, go ahead.
Yeah, touching on that, it definitely, when I joined back in what was like December, that same thing exactly happened to me. I was like 2,000 or 3,000 DPS, whatever, away from Iridan and Rav, and it took a 5-minute conversation to find out what I was doing, and everybody, literally not one person in the guild was, hesitant to share what they knew or try to help get better. So definitely ask.
To build on that, one of the things that we really pride ourselves on in HoZ is we don't kick people off the raid team for attendance, or excuse me, not attendance, for performance, and we don't deny applications based on performance as well. What we do is put people on trial ranking positions, or we work with them if they don't qualify for the trial, and we give them very specific feedback. Friday Night Flex has been a great asset for that. We run logs on Friday Night Flex also. So when that starts up in Legion and that event is running, you can always come to that event if you're someone who maybe you're a little overwhelmed with the idea of joining the progression raid team right away, but you are looking to raid and get into raiding. Friday Night Flex is an awesome opportunity for you to do that. Run logs and ask an officer to work with you and give you feedback on what you can do to improve. See how you compare to other people of your same item level. It was mentioned earlier that you can compare your DPS to other people in the group. I would even push you farther using logs to compare yourself to other players in the game. And logs allow you to do that. Compare your profile and your raid statistics to people who are in similar compositions, similar item levels on the same boss on the same difficulty. So that way you're not comparing yourself apples to oranges against someone who's 5 items level, 10 items level higher, and maybe even a different class. Damage meters are a really bad indicator a lot of times. A lot of times what you want to do is see how you rank up against other players of your same class and spec on a particular boss. That's a great way to evaluate how you're doing as a player. And the officers are here to help you with that. And so are the veterans. We've got a lot of really talented players in this guild, and not all of them are officers. There are a ton of really talented players who are excellent at reading combat logs, who have officer experience in other guilds, who have leadership experience in this guild. We have several people who were officers in this guild and are no longer officers and are phenomenal assets as well, and probably even have more free time than we do now. So that there's a lot of different ways that you can get feedback, and we're really willing to work with you. The biggest thing is communication. That if you come to us with things, large raid teams make it very difficult to manage every single person. So it's really on you as a player to identify the things that you're worried about and come and seek help out. The last thing I'll say about that is pay attention to who your class theory crafters are. If you don't know, if you're playing a fire mage and you don't know who the leading, mage theory crafters are, it's a good idea to start asking around and figure that out. Go to the Warcraft forums. If you don't know who is doing, like when Icy Veins puts out, information, or Ask Mr. Robot puts out information, if you don't know who's doing that, the majority of the time they've got blogs of their own that you can follow, and they keep really interesting conversations going in there. Those are typically some of the best places to go to help improve your gameplay. So with that being said, why don't we talk a little bit about loot? Rav, go ahead.
All right, so I got the wonderful topic of discussing EPGP. Nothing quite as exciting and thrilling. What we're running into, do we have anybody out there who has not used EPGP or is what it is about?
I had never used it before.
All right, at least one. Excellent. All we need is one for an explanation. Thanks. The whole purpose of that is, if you've ever had loot, you go into a pug, you go into anything another, and it's like, okay, all these rolls are coming out, I'm not getting anything. It's very simple concept. It's based on your efforts, your attendance, showing up for raids, showing up for Friday Night Flex, doing the little things that we put out there. There'll be some other things that'll be mentioned as well, but it's all about effort. If you put into effort, and it's increasing what is essentially your priority rating. If you've attended 5 of the last raids and you haven't picked up a single piece, then you've put in a lot of effort points and you haven't gotten any gear, which is the gear points. So it becomes a priority, it becomes a ratio. I've put in a ton of effort, but I've yet to loot one single piece, so your priority starts to go up. So now you're one of 5 of them, priests that are out there, and you haven't looted anything in the last 5 raids. At this point, amongst in a priest item drops amongst that, you're very likely, if all the other priests have picked up a piece of gear, you're going to have a higher priority at that point because you've been putting in the time and the effort, but you haven't been any reward for that yet. So, and if you attend a raid and you get a gear piece, you're probably going to be right in the middle of basically of how the priority ratings go. If you've showed up from one raid and you just happen to get nobody wanted that thing and you've gotten 3 pieces, you'll be down a little bit lower. It all balances out, and it's just meant to keep people going. And best thing that can happen is the entire raid team progresses equally and strongly so that we're able to kick ass, take names, and move forward without one person getting strong, because one person rocking the DPS is not going to take down everything for us. So it's meant to be fair and balanced. I heard that the other day about the Fox News Network. I couldn't believe they actually said that while I was listening to the TV, but that's what they said. The fair and balanced, that's where we're at. One thing we will try to avoid, and what we do is we decay the effort points that are gained. They are decayed by 20% every week. So let's say you raid for about a month or so with us. You attend every one. You never pick up anything. So you're going to be having a very high priority rating. But then something happens and you've got to miss about a month. What that prevents is you don't come back after a month of effort where you haven't done any effort, you haven't been able to be on the raid team, and you don't come back and suddenly you're at the top of the list, even though someone else has been raiding now for 2 months and is. So we do a DK at the end of every raid week. Probably either Friday night after the Friday Night Flex event or sometime on Saturday, I'll DK all of it by 20%, because we really are all about what have you done for us lately, right? I mean, come on.
Big goal there is that systems like DKP, if you use those in the past, they really favor people who have been in the guild the longest and not necessarily the people who have been contributing the most recently. One of the reasons EPGP has been so successful for us over our history and that we've never had any loot problems or complaints is that the system's really, it's just fair. It's a ratio system. It's very simple. It's easy to use as a player. All the mechanics going on behind the scenes are very unimportant. You as a player basically can be as selfish as you want with loot. If you see an upgrade, take it. If it's not a big upgrade, then press the minor upgrade button on it, and we'll give priority to someone who it's a bigger upgrade to. But it's up to you as a player. And the beautiful part is that since it's all ratio based, the guy who's been to 1,000 raids and gotten 1,000 raids worth of loot is the same exact ratio as the guy who's been to 3 raids and gotten 3 raids worth of loot. There's a little mechanic in there that allows us so that someone who joins the guild yesterday, doesn't, start immediately acquiring high-end gear. There's a little bit of a kind of catch-up that you start with a little higher denominator than numerator, but that's only to ensure the guy who's been in the guild a long time, and is at the top of the PR doesn't get beat by someone who's been in the guild 3 days. But after you go to a couple raid nights, it's going to be very, very balanced. And there's a lot of different ways that you can earn effort points throughout the expansion, which Rob will go over right now.
All right, well, one of the things that we do at the beginning of every raid expansion is kind of in the same vein as the fair and balanced, is we reset everybody. We don't have anyone start off, so if you're just joining us for the first time, you'll be raiding with us when Legion begins. You'll be at the same position as all the veteran raiders, because we're also fix those ranks as well. So one of the fun things we get to do is completely reset all the EPGP that's been gained for the entire expansion, and it goes something like this.
Rav, I'm going to give you the pun.
2 years worth of effort.
Rav, you get it.
It was all yours, man. You drop it.
One fell swoop.
And it's gone, just like that. So if you're in game, you'll see a little thing that says EPGP are reset. It's all gone. So you're no longer the coolest priority rating in the list. It's been excellent. I hadn't rated hadn't come back to it for a long time. It's worked out really well. There's little things you can do to earn it. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Before Legion begins, now and through the 30th, and until we actually start raiding, there was one thing. Anyone who's raided with us in the last tier, all through Archimon and has been going along, had an opportunity to complete some of the surveys that we've had done, some of which we've already talked about tonight. That was a chance for any of the HoZ raiders, HFC raiders, to earn a little bit of extra EP, and as promised, that is going to be awarded after that. So that reset put everyone back to 0. everyone who has been raiding with us for some time now does have a little bit of an opportunity to start an extra ahead. It's not a great deal. Turns out to be roughly 1.2% of a raid night. So it brings you a little bit of extra to get started and rewards players who's been here for a long time without putting them way out ahead of everybody. You're here tonight.
Just to be clear, that was 120% of a raid night, not 1.2% of a raid night.
He's only the guy in charge of.
mind.
He's only the guy in charge of EPGP. Everyone. He's not expected to know numbers.
When doing the multiplication of it, it's multiplying. Yeah. 1.2 is.
Yeah, thanks for filling out the surveys. Here's 1.2% of a raid night.
Hey, I told you it's not very much to put you out far ahead. 3 points is not much. As of this moment, we do not yet know what the points are going to be. It's based upon gear and item levels and of the items itself, so that when you're being rewarded with effort, it keeps you somewhat equivalent with the gear that's available. So those values will come. So that information hasn't yet been determined, but once we've figured it out, we'll be doing that. Tonight's attendance is worth 1 raid night's worth of EP as well. Again, once we figure that out. Then there's going to come up a topic which we've got information on. We've got the site of what we want to do, but we don't have all the details. And that is being raid ready on the first night. Whenever that first raid drops, so the expansion comes out the 30th, let's say it's the 21st of September that they drop the first raid, and that's the night we will be raiding. If you're ready by that night, or prior to that, as soon as you're ready by all the standards we've met, once ever we make them up and they're most optimal for those of us who are making them up, we'll just figure it out. Don't worry about it. It's nothing busy.
Last expansion we required 630 item level, and for just raw item level, that'll be fairly consistent with the next expansion. So I'm thinking probably somewhere around 835 item level. We have to see what the final numbers are, and Blizzard usually is pretty good at communicating what item level they expect to go into different contents. So we'll be introducing those through the Guild News, which is a great opportunity if you haven't already to make sure that you're signed up for the Guild newsletter, so you don't have to log onto the website every single day and check for updates. It'll get sent out to you by email. Like us on Facebook, and you'll also get that same exact feed there. Or you can just log on to the website all the time. But you will be responsible for knowing that information when it comes out. That's 3 whole raid nights worth of effort points for being ready to go day 1. What traditionally we've done on that is we'll post all of the requirements to get your raid rank there. As soon as you've met all those requirements, just come and bug an officer. We'll check out your armory profile. We'll check the requirements, and we'll promote you to the rank of raider. And then we'll assign your effort points right then and there. And there's no decay until the first week of raiding, so it's not like if you do it in week 1, you're going to want to wait or anything like that. So you get your points up front, and then when you get into the very first raid of the expansion, your name's going to be at the top of the list. And anyone who comes in after the very first day of Emerald Nightmare will be going through the trial rating system. So we'll have a separate system in place for people there. So that's kind of the gist of it. We will post that as more information comes out on Legion. Wowhead always posts a really great guide for gearing up in the expansion. As soon as Wowhead's completed that guide, I will have that obviously on the Legion page of the website and also on the Guild News, and let you guys know exactly what the requirements are going to be to do that.
So that's everything you can do before Legion. During Legion, when that comes up, we're going to be having, one of the things is obviously going to be raid attendance. There's EP awarded for attending the raids. We got, and we have a system in place. You can only attend a half raid, you're late, there's different ones. So it's not an all or nothing kind of a thing. If you're going to have to be late and you got to make up and show up a little bit late, you may end up with a half a night. We try to keep it as balanced as even as so that you get something. Another thing that we've got going on is a Friday Night Flex, and I won't cover it too much, but it's going to be worth a half a night's normal raid EP. It's a fantastic night. It's a relaxed raid atmosphere. We get out, we get a chance to have a good time, see some bosses, some more mechanics. we like to invite members of the Silver Moon Mocnathal community to join us for. It gives a lot of people who get nothing but pugs and LFR a chance to see an organized raid group, something a lot of folks don't get a chance to, and it provides an excellent recruiting tool for us. Myself, Irden, Dyer, all I think joined after having nights with Friday Night Flex. Just got a chance to enjoy something and do something you didn't normally get to see, and it was just wonderful. And we get another opportunity to learn boss fights and possibly get some gear if you hadn't get a chance to do, and or you can't make a Thursday night, but you can show up for a Friday because you couldn't raid or something, but you get another chance to raid and have a good time.
Yeah, all 3 officers have recruited through that. A lot of people in the chat are already saying the same thing. It definitely works, and it's it's a fun way to be on your alt. Do some raiding, do some normal modes, but it really helps the guild out a ton if we go, because everyone has fun, everyone plays around, and it's kind of a run through, but it really gets people pumped about raiding and introduces them to the guild and the team. So it's a really great opportunity. We want to reward players for doing that. We do offer half a raid night's worth of effort points for it. Anything else on EP you want to add, Rav, before we move on?
That's it for me.
All right, guys. We're going to try to speed through a couple more of these sections a little quicker. I'm going to talk briefly about raid ranks in Legion. For those of you who were raided with us in Hellfire Citadel, you'll be fairly familiar with these. A couple renames on them, but the gist is basically the same. If you're a returning raider from before that or a new raider, you might not know the structure already. But we have 3 different tiers of raid ranks. Technically, officers fall into the veteran raider status and are required to maintain that status as well. So officers, really the only reason that they're a separate title than veteran raiders are just simply the fact that I have to give them administrative responsibilities, through the guild system, permissions. So the 3 raid ranks are Trial Raider, Raider, and Veteran Raider. Now, Trial Raiders are typically something that we introduce about a few weeks into the expansion. We won't be introducing the Trial rank until once we get a little bit more into progression, because players are going to all be kind of starting off the raid tier at the same time. However, as we progress into the expansion and we have a very solid core group of players that are on that raid team, what we're going to want to do is we're going to be doing Tuesday nights as farm nights and running through content very quickly on those nights. Whereas Thursday nights will be typically our progression nights on new bosses and new content. So we introduced the trial rank as a way to introduce new players into the raid team and for them to pick up some gear that we've looted a lot of already, and earn some effort points for that, but practice in a system where everyone kind of already knows the fights and can give a lot more hands-on help to those players. But not necessarily include them in the brand new progression. So it gets them a chance to meet the guild, have fun, mess around in an environment that's much more lighthearted and less, pressure intense. After they've been doing really well, or if they've geared up enough to join the team on progression, we welcome trial raiders onto the progression side Thursday nights. And if they're demonstrating that they're not holding us back at all, or they're able to keep up with the rest of the raid team, then we give them the raider status. That has taken as little as 1 week for some players. It can take 2 months for other players. It just really depends on where the player's at in terms of their gear and in terms of their skill level. But we want to encourage people to move up as soon as possible. So we're actively assigning people to work with them, go over logs, and progress up into that system. But it's been really nice because it doesn't hold back our progression in any way, but it allows people to join the raid team very quickly. The raider rank is, as soon as you have that raider rank, that basically means that you're welcome to come to both nights of progression. And you have that 85% expectation for raiding. The veteran rank on top of that is reserved for players who have maintained their raider status and maintained 85% plus attendance for 3 consecutive months. So if you have been raiding for 3 consecutive months, or the most 3 recent months, you'll get that. You get a little bit of an effort point reward, the equivalent of 1 raid night per month, You get a little bit of a boost there. You also get exclusive rights to roll on any cosmetic rewards. So if a piece is going to like transmog or disenchant, you can get priority on that. If there's a special mount that drops, if there's a special pet that drops, if there's a like shaman set, like the dark shaman one, all of those goes purely to veterans, people who have been consistently raiding for 3 months or greater. Now, I'd like to remind everyone that those ranks are resetting upon the expansion. Anyone who is a current veteran raider will be demoted back down to regular Zuggy members, and will have to, every single person on the team, including officers, is going to have to re-earn their status in the guild for the expansion. The one catch is that the people who are currently veteran raiders who helped us get the veteran raiders, or excuse me, get Heroic Archimon down, we're going to give you a 1 month head start on that requirement. So after the first 8 weeks of progression, if you're maintaining that raid rank, we're going to let you get your rank back much more quickly than other players. So not a big mechanical difference, but we want to give definitely a nod to players who have been there, in the past. So that's kind of our compromise. We're really big on everyone re-earning their spots every expansion, so that doesn't get to be too much complacency. Any questions at all on raid ranks, how to get them, or the privileges associated with them? Okay, cool. So, last section here is what can you do right now? We want to end with some actionables for you guys to immediately jump into what can you do right now to get ready for Legion. So the first thing is that you can choose a class and spec and stick with it. Hellfire Citadel tomorrow, 5:30. Start attending that, and Thursday as well. Start rating on the class that you have. Remember, 700 item level is the minimum to go into that. If you don't know the mechanics, there are great videos out there, 2-minute boss tips. We can help you walk through some of those mechanics there. Hopefully you've reviewed them at least a little bit beforehand, or done them on a couple different difficulties. The biggest thing that you can do right now, more so than anything else, is to perfect your UI, work on your weak auras, and make sure that your gaming computer is up to spec and is running efficiently. If you got internet problems, fix them. If you got hard drive problems, fix them. If you got whatever problems, you fix them now before the expansion comes out, so that day one your computer's not crashing in the raids, right? So that's a really big thing that you can do. If you're not familiar with the required add-ons, they are under the progression rating page, housezug.com/progression-rating. You can find that also under the events tab on housezug.com. There's a list to all the download links for the different required add-ons. One of those add-ons, there are 2 EPGP add-ons. One of them is called Loot Master. It is still required for everyone to have. That's the one that allows you the window to pop up to let you choose loot. If you do not have both of those add-ons, you're not going to be able to receive any loot. The Loot Master will not know that you've requested loot, and he will loot it to the next person on the list instead of you. So make sure you have both of them installed. You don't have to do anything. Just install them and leave them there and keep them up to date. Weak Auras is a fantastic add-on. Every expansion I do a massive Weak Aura set. Ask anyone in the guild who's been around. They're very, very large Weak Aura packets that will outline the core raid mechanics of every single fight and give you some heads up on our strategies on Weak Auras. I highly recommend that you use that add-on. It is probably the single most, if there was one add-on that you could use in this entire expansion, I would say use Weak Auras. It's very, 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 very important. Apparently the EPGP Loot Master is marked out of date. I'll look into that. I don't know what the problem is. We'll have to check it out before tomorrow, though. So.
I'm running
Chris hasn't updated it
currently.
yet.
Okay. You know what? I don't think it matters because that add-on has been around for frickin' ever. So I think that's just one of those ones that I don't think it'll be an issue.
Yeah, I haven't experienced any issues with it. I've been practicing with it for a while, so.
It's actually kind of true. I
It might
still
be
can't
true.
turn off. I can't turn off my druid auras. I have like 200 auras under my druid like thing, and when I try to turn them off and just say don't load anymore, my computer crashes every time now.
When he shares
So-
one of
They've
those, and
become
so
sentient.
It took me
shares
like
one, and
20 minutes
the
of
whole
deleting.
raid tries to download it. Oh,
Yeah,
we've shut down an
yeah,
entire
we had to
raid
break
just
up.
trying to share one.
Yeah, we had to break it up into like 5 different files because the WeakAura packages were so big. Yeah, I do need to break them into specs. So anyway, that's one big thing you can do right now, because in terms of attendance, if you're missing raids or missing raid time or causing the group to lag out, our progression because of your UI or your computer, we treat that identical to as if you just missed the raid entirely. Because to be honest, it does the exact same thing. If I had my choice between a 50th percentile raider with great connection speed and a 75th percentile raider with terrible connection problems all the time, I would easily take the other person, because at least I can work with him to improve his gameplay. I can't help you if your computer just sucks or your internet connection just sucks. You gotta work on those things on your own. It's a great time to take care of those problems now and do what you can to improve those connections. Yeah. So, moving on, LVUI is a really cool add-on or a tutorial. I've been asked to do a WeakAuras and an LVUI tutorial by several people. I will probably try to do that. Set aside a time to just basically walk through interface and show you how to use those add-ons. Alternatively, if you want help setting those up, you can flag me down and I'll make some time to sit down and actually go through those and help you set them up if you like to use those 2 add-ons. They're the core ones I use for my UI. People ask me a lot what I use for my UI, WeakAuras and L for my core ones, but there's a lot of great stuff out there. Another thing that you can do to help out is by really just staying informed. Sorry, I'm blowing through these. Staying informed on everything going on in the guild news and on the Legion resources page is a really important thing for you to do right now as you're going through the expansion. Watch MMO Champion for updates. Pick and choose what you're looking for. In terms of a class, do not concern yourself with the numbers. Blizzard is still tuning numbers, so do not play a class because you think that they're going to be the best in the expansion. Play it because you love playing the class, because those numbers are nowhere near final. And another thing that you can do that's a really big help is helping recruit, talking to your friends, getting your friends excited to play the game again, bringing it back into the guild. Even if they're not going to be progression raiders, this is going to be the most the most casual, friendly expansion ever. There's going to be a ton of content between Mythic Dungeons, PvP balance, and daily quests. There's going to be a lot of stuff to do. And getting friends involved in the game and making sure that we have an active community is a really, really great thing that you can do to help the guild right now. Just get people excited to play and let them know about our guild. Friday Night Flex is also a great opportunity. So for those of you who are hardcore raiders, you very well may have friends that are looking for a guild that's not as hardcore. We have a lot of options for those players as well. It's not the be-all, end-all if you don't want to be a member of the progression raid team. It just helps the community overall. And a lot of people who get excited about raiding and want to make that change who never were raiders in the past. And that actually transitions well into Friday Night Flex again. When Friday Night Flex comes out, we're going to be doing it on the very first Friday of raiding open for Emerald Nightmare. So show up to Friday Night Flex. That's a big thing you can do to help the guild. Remember, your effort points for Friday Night Flex transfer to your main if you'd like them to. So you're more than welcome to show up on an alt and apply those points to your main for the purposes of getting loot during progression raiding. Have an extra character geared, and help some players on the server progress and help recruit for the guild during that. Great way to earn extra effort points and really help out the guild in the process. We get a lot of people through that event. It's a big event for us. Anything else that anyone needed to add? Anything I missed, officers?
Let me shoot you one quick message.
In the spring of
Okay,
1964,
while you're doing that,
when Donald
Dire
Trump
Wrath,
was
anything else we
graduating
left out?
No.
Nothing I can think of off the top of my head. There was
Okay.
something with EPGP. EPGP, I was going to mention something, actually.
Oh! Yeah, before you do that real quick, Iridan, great point. We did make a decision to do guild repairs for veterans this expansion. We're going to be working to finance that. So that will be a new perk that we're going to be offering in Legion.
Also,
go ahead, Ref.
Yeah, Rev, go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, unless something has changed, if you're not too familiar with the EPGP, making the more familiar you can be with items, loot drop items that are known upgrades for you, checking out the boss loot tables, things like that, the more aware you are of what might drop off a boss, and that way you can be aware when it does drop and you make faster decisions. Basically, unless something has changed, loot cannot be disseminated while in combat. And knowing how Dire is, his ass is gonna go bounding off, killing some stuff, and I'm gonna be like, can't loot it, can't assign it, can't assign it. And then since I don't know the places, you'll be going, where the hell is Rav? Don't know. I'm lost back here. Everybody ran off. I'm still back here trying to loot stuff for us. So be familiar with his gear, know what's coming up, do your best to help make decisions quickly. It is set to an automatic 1 minute loot timer. I'm not going to change that right now. But that'll help us keep moving and pushing forward when we're on our progression nights.
All right. Well, at this time, I'd like to thank everyone for coming. If you have any questions, please go ahead and ask them. We're going to be opening up to questions here. I've taken screenshots already of everyone who attended the raid today. So if you were online on time, I got your screenshot. And I just took one now to see everyone's staying to the end. If you came on in the middle somewhere, I probably got you too. I took like 5 screenshots of the roster and Vent. So we will be applying those. If your character name on Vent is not the same as a character that I'd recognize from the guild, then you should talk to Ravindra and make sure he knows that, because that actually is one of the requirements for the guild, so we know who the heck you are. And we can apply those points to you. So keep posted on everything that's coming up, and we'll have a lot coming down the pipeline. Make sure to sign up for the newsletter or like us on Facebook to make sure you're getting all that information. And thank you guys for your attention today. It was about 90 minutes, so I appreciate the attention span for this. Hopefully there was some good information.
Getting 1.5 times.
Shortest meeting ever from bars, so.
Hey, you know what's the same amount of EP would have gotten for a whole raid night, so you actually saved yourself an hour and a half. Although raiding's probably more fun.
No doubt.
Kyle,
actually, Zaz makes a good point. I'm fine with giving 150%. All right, guys. Well, that is it. Questions. Feel free to open it up. If you don't have any questions, or if you don't want to stick around for the questions, you can log off now. The questions will still be recorded and posted to the YouTube channel. Go ahead.
It's also a good time for Legion questions if you have them. So I know there was a question earlier about artifact weapons and alts, so I will answer that shortly.
I'll be back shortly. I need some dinner and to use the restroom.
All right. Well, I will go ahead and just start talking about the artifact weapons, just because it come up earlier. So the way that it's going to work in Legion is that when you get an artifact weapon on your main class, it goes at a predetermined rate from what I've been able to tell so far. When you get on your alt, you can actually do some catch up. And the catch up allows you to get up to about 80 to 85% of the power of your main artifact weapon without, and that translates to a very minimal, at least what Blizzard says, a very minimal difference in power. And you'll be able to get research notes to help that go faster for your alts as well. So effectively speaking, it actually was not hard for me to, while I was leveling, keep my secondary artifact both relevant item level, as well as getting a few of the points that it needed to do some extra fun stuff.
So it's not like the legendary quest lines.
No, it's actually, I mean, it's similar in a way, but it's a lot easier than what they made it in WAD and in MOP for those legendary quest lines. So you should have a pretty easy way of being able to keep that ready to go.
And off specs as well, right? It's pretty quick catch up on that.
Yeah.
With artifact
And for the most part, you're just able to play anything you want, right? Like for the most part, you're just able to go do PvP, go do questing, go do raiding, go do dungeons, and like you're just constantly progressing your artifact no matter what you do. Right?
Yeah, so the big things that I've seen is that actually your item level seems to be more impactful than a lot of the traits are. Now that's not to say that there aren't a couple of traits that you will probably want to get, and I recommend that you research your specific class on what those will be. But by and large, they don't offer such a huge difference that you are going to be wrecked by stepping into a raid compared to somebody that does have it. So it's just it's actually kind of nice. It's nice to be able to go, you know what? I want a PvP, or maybe I want to try healing and I've never done it before. Let me just swap over. I already have the weapon and everything that I need for it.
Yeah,
and I think there's going to be like relics and things that you put in the artifacts too, right? That drop from raid bosses.
Increase the item level.
Yep.
Yeah, so that increase is going to be based on rating. And are those going to be something that are just randomly assigned, or are they through like, are they dropped and they're assigned by the guild?
You can get them multiple ways. One way is to get them through the guild because they do drop off of raid bosses, but you can also get them by doing solo content or even smaller group content. So while leveling, I was getting actually enough to keep both because as I level in one zone and then I go to the next zone, and I was able to actually apply a lot of those relic slots on my off spec weapon.
But if you do that, make sure you swap your spec before you complete the quest, because they
otherwise, it locks into whatever you were spec'd as.
And those also give small trait boosts as well, in addition to the high item level boost.
Yep. So does that help, Zilf?
Well, yeah, it does, because I mean, I'm actually like looking at it considering my main is not the spec. It's more of, like I'm looking at the way I'm considering it is I'm going to be Boomkin Resto maining, and then probably Feral for BGs or something like that. Occasionally.
It's really easy to get the artifact weapons, and it's not hard to keep them up. I think they did a really good job with them.
Yeah, especially given the fact that there were a lot of concerns with it. And even if you were to swap then to becoming the secondary spec as a main spec, you would then be funneling all of those points into your secondary spec, which at first you'd have a catch-up mechanic, and then it would start to slow down as well. So, and then if you aren't, the other thing that's interesting is if you're not putting points into your artifact for a couple of weeks, you'll actually get a bit of a boost for not putting it up for a little while as well. So that way you can stay relevant with those who are leading out on the server.
What was the mention of the artifact knowledge? This is the second or third time I've heard it, but
you have a research mechanic that it increases the how quickly you accumulate artifact power, and it goes faster the lower you are and the longer it's been since the expansion launched. So it should start off like, if you're on track, it'll be like 7 days to upgrade your artifact knowledge. If you're below, it could be as low as 1 day.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Which I was below on mine. So like, let's just say that, so I probably didn't level to 110 by the time that most people were on the beta for weeks on end, right? So I got in there, and I think for 3 days I was able to do the artifact catch up almost daily. It started and then after that it was weekly.
Where was that?
Okay, so it'd be kind of like the
where
PvP
is that in your
catch-up
class
was
hall?
this time.
Yeah, very similar, Zilf. Each class hall will have a different one. So for Demon Hunter, since I can speak to that, it's actually you'll get a quest that leads you to that area. It's kind of in the below underbelly of the ship, and you just go talk to the guy. It did cost an assload of resources to start with, but they put it on a more acceptable cost.
And it's across your entire character. It's not just spec specific.
Yeah. So when you do research, it will actually do research for both, and it's kind of cool because you get lore with it. You get to read more about your artifact weapon on either side. It's pretty cool.
Good to know. Now I've got to go to the
Thus
beta and find
artifact
out where
knowledge.
that is.
Other questions? Anyone still questioning what they're playing for the expansion, or have any questions about like signups at all?
I'm not quite sure.
I'm
So
still
close.
leaning towards Druid, I think.
Druid, maybe Paladin. I'm gonna play a little bit more, but probably Druid, yeah. Pally seems fun too.
Pally is fun. I really enjoyed them.
And
I feel like
the,
at this point,
Aura of Mercy is really, really, really good. It's actually the best in tier.
I feel like I should just keep with my hunter. I played him for 3 expansions now. Just play him for 4th, you know. Keep it going.
Good plan.
So far, they
I mean,
seem really good.
And
Yeah, I'm liking
survival
him so
seems really fun.
Just really boring.
I think Beastmaster's really boring. I don't think that Marksman
so
was nearly
boring.
as boring.
Marksman's good, yeah.
Survival.
There's a wall.
Survival's fun, but it weirds the crap out of me. Like, it really weirds me out.
So many traps.
Well, it's the traps, and then it's
so
the fact
fun.
that I'm so used to disengaging, and now I'm like, I'm not supposed to do that anymore. So I have to like punch you and kill you before I die.
Yeah, that does feel weird without the
So
disengage,
true.
even though as a melee I don't want to disengage.
Yeah, it's
anyway,
like-
but
Exactly, like you want to stay there, but for whatever reason, I feel like I should be disengaging when under fire, and
Well,
it's just a
yeah.
huge change from.
well, as soon as you're in melee range with a hunter, it's always been instinct to, and no longer in melee range, and I'm out.
Yeah.
I like how flanking strike works. Speaking of, you know, instinct. I mean, the way it can, when you're soloing, it can cause a taunt, basically. And then
Yeah,
otherwise,
I
it
do
does
like
increase
that.
damage. It's a very clever way of doing it.
I kind of agree with Baratar, though. I wish that they had made it into a tanking spec. It would have been the first male armored tanking spec.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah,
That
but
would've
they're
been
not.
cool.
I don't think they're gonna do. I mean, you mean like Rexar tanking?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't expect they're gonna do that.
I don't either, but
anything.
I think it would have been. I think it could have really added some extra and awesome flavor to the class that doesn't exist now. It could have made people want to try that rather than just here be a weird hybrid rogue agility class.
I mean, it's not far off from
I
what
can agree.
beta hunters could do with all the melee abilities.
You mean like beta as in like vanilla beta?
What?
Did I hear you say beta or vanilla?
I said vanilla.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, exactly.
I was saying they had a lot of.
That's what they were trying to
melee
return
abilities.
it to, but I would have just liked to seen a tank class instead. But we're not going to get it.
I
Same
mean,
with
Nah.
Warlock,
Oh,
when they
I'm
did the
so
revamp.
excited for that.
What's your tune
They're
name, by
not-
the way, Ursa?
Oh, it's Pravitas on this. Like, it sounds spelled like it sounds.
Oh, God. I need to pop over on Horde. Hold on.
Oh, Horde?
Looks like a
It's
sound.
actually an ally.
Oh, is it? Okay, then I don't know why I
Night
didn't
Elf
see it.
Demon Hunters look so much better than Blood Elf
They
Demon
do.
Hunters.
They look so freaking sweet.
Particularly because their armor set matches so well with those damn swords.
Are you online?
Yeah.
Oh, you're probably on the other leveling realm, aren't you?
I'm on 3, but 1, but it shouldn't matter if you're on 3. I've been in groups with multiple realms.
Yeah, I just have to find you to invite you. As well.
What's your character name again?
Mithrodan.
Bar, I need to get with you about the attendance spreadsheet and things like that, tracking it.
Sure. I'll give it another minute in case there's any other questions, but we'll
no worries.
Take care of it.
Jump down, Dyer.
Okay, sure.
Any other questions about Legion or about the raid team? Anything that we didn't cover?
Looks like we're good.
Yep. Cool. If there's any questions, feel free to hit us up. I've logged a few hours, actually a couple days of time just on this most recent beta, so more than happy to answer any Legion questions.